Hi, my dear listeners. Once again, this is retired Lt Colonel Samsudeen Sarr, former commander of the Gambia National Army, being back on this Monday, the 6th of November 2023. And as usual, continuation of the reading of my book, Testimony of a Gambian Military Officer and a Diplomat. Today I'll be reading chapter 14, entitled Singate and Topper Arrested and Detained. The revelation over the first execution of Gambian National Army officers and soldiers in the abortive November counter coup shocked all the detainees at the prison, further deepening the shroud of uncertainty that had descended upon us. I later, upon my release, conducted a thorough investigation into the case, delving into the events that unfolded on the night when Lieutenant Sekuba Bari and his unfortunate assistants were transported from the prison to Fajara Barracks. They were taken from the prison to Fajara Barracks, where Samate personally executed Sekuba Bari, and Topper brutally killed Lieutenant Tal. Witnesses unanimously narrated the same harrowing story. The Interior Minister, Captain Keba Topper, fired a fatal shot from his 9mm pistol into Lieutenant Tal's rectum, leading to the officer's prolonged agony before succumbing to death. I further discovered from my investigation that on the 13th of November, just 2 days later, the remaining captured officers met the same grim fate in the Kombo Silo forest at the hands of Singate, Samate, Topper, and their guards. The trio of junta members, alongside their guards, administered the fatal blows as a firing squad ended the lives of the other officers. Several of the captured conspirators were lucky to flee to Senegal. Among those executed on November 13, 1994, were 10 lieutenants and 2 NCOs who were laid to rest in a mass grave located behind the Yundum Barracks toilets. Sergeant Major Jibuse was sadly among the executed officers who at the time was promoted to the rank of a first lieutenant. The failed counter-coup and the sad execution of numerous officers and other ranks instilled profound fear within us at the prison. It served as a chilling wake-up call, revealing the harsh reality that we were at the mercy of genuine killers. Until that moment, the notion that these young men whom we had considered timid or innocent could commit such heinous acts was inconceivable. Sergeant Sama Mare, an intimate friend who shared a close bond with Lieutenant Sekuba Bari, suffered severe psychological trauma that manifested as a loss of mobility in his lower body. Dr. Major Lani Job diagnosed him and informed the prison authorities that Sergeant Mare had experienced an irreversible nervous breakdown. While the authenticity of Sergeant Mare's condition remained uncertain, given my own experience feeling illness after the September torture incident, it appeared he was really paralyzed from the waist down. Attempts were made to transfer the surgeon to the Royal Victoria Hospital, the main Banjul hospital, but as anticipated, Singate and Topper rejected the request. As reports continue to pour in regarding the execution of officers and soldiers, we discovered that some individuals, like Corporal Alpha Kambi, who had once been a popular and humorous figure in the camp, and Private Bara Jao, an army truck driver, had undergone a shocking transformation into ruthless killers. Bara had become a member of Samate's close bodyguards, while Kambi remained stationed at the military police wing in Yundum Barracks, always ready to carry out any unsavory tasks assigned to him. This marked the descent of an entirely new dark world upon us, reminiscent of hell on earth. Ever since the mass execution of soldiers in November, the disturbing news from the outside world regarding our fate persisted. While a commission of inquiry had been established by the junta consisting of judges, senior members of the security forces, and select religious leaders to review our cases as slated by Vice Chairman Singate, the progress of this process was agonizingly slow. Detainees who managed to undergo the proceedings received no feedback on their performance. Curiously, the interrogation experience mirrored across all detainees, with the commissioners, like the police in September, fixated on extracting explanations for their detentions rather than shedding light on the reason why they were detained. The common thread among all detainees' experience was evident. Singate and Topa had apprehended almost everyone without apparent explanation or charges, attributing their actions to security reasons after the fact. Despite several detainees appearing before the commission from October to January, none were granted release. December brought further challenges as our spouses discovered that Samate had ordered the cessation of all payments of salaries to army detainees, compounding my distress as my wife and children were evicted from the government house we had called home for 2 years. In similar vein, Keba Topper discontinued the salaries of all police detainees. In the lead up to January 27, 1995, the 6-month mask of my detention, the 6 months mark of my detention, I remain among the handful who had yet to face the Board of Commission. If the criteria for release was predicated on those who had appeared before the board, my prospects seemed bleak. That day marked precisely 6 months since my initial arrest, and Vice Chairman Kending Singate on BBC interview had insinuated that those with no incriminating evidence found against them will be released at that juncture. However, I couldn't help but question who in the country possessed the audacity to ascertain the current validity of that deadline. Awakening on January 27, 1995 at 6:30 a.m. for my customary early morning prayers and walkout, I cast a fleeting glance towards the towering white towers, gauging the usual guard presence. To my relief, both towers exhibited the customary number of guards, signaling normalcy. Yet sleep eluded me after I returned to my wooden bed. The prison guards adhered to their schedule, ushering us into the open yard where we will spend the morning, sometimes extending into the afternoon. However, a surprising turn of events transpired around 8:30 a.m., just as we were about to conclude breakfast. Unfamiliar prison guards stormed in, a real sense of urgency surrounding them. Francis, Babu, and Ablai, our regular guards, seemed reticent to engage, a notable departure from their usual behavior. My habit of possessing a $20 banknote to procure information yielded no results as Francis averted his gaze. The new guards swiftly directed us back into our cells, meticulously executing their orders under the watchful eyes of their supervisors. A significant shift was noticeable as both watchtowers now brim with heavily armed soldiers from the State House Guards. The gravity of the situation became apparent. A profound development was unfolding somewhere within the country. I turned to prayers, seeking solace and guidance amid the uncertainty that enveloped us. No sooner had the main door to our confinement block been secured than it swung open again, hurriedly admitting the Deputy Inspector General of Police Jonga, Captain Charen, and RSM Seka from confinement block number 1. They appeared bewildered, clutching their small personal belongings as they entered their individual cells. Captain Charen's eyes glowed with a hint of red, the manifestation of the uncertainty that had enveloped all of us. Their gazes were filled with questions as if they expected us to provide some explanation, reflecting the way we had earlier sought answers from them, hoping they might reveal something we didn't know yet. After the 3 officers were locked away, the guards slammed the main door, securing the chains and bolting the brackets with heavy-duty padlocks. The sound reverberated, sealing us off from the outside wall. Outside, the heavy thud of marching boots echoed as soldiers took up positions around the prison yard. Most of them were from the State Guards unit. An atmosphere of dread settled upon us, the anticipation of something ominous on the horizon. Just before 10 a.m., the creaking iron gate to the yard swung open once again. Shouted orders pierced the air, urging someone or some people to move faster. Reacting swiftly, I perched on my bed and stole a glance over the window. I caught sight of Singate's and Topper's heads, first, followed by Samate. My heart raced within the chest. The thought that they might have decided to execute us finally crossed my mind. Yet as I strained for a clearer view of the weapons they carried, a wave of surprise and relief washed over me. Singate and Topper had their hands bound behind them with white zip-tie handcuffs, while Samate walked unshackled behind them. Together, they marched towards confinement building number 1, leaving behind the 2 AFPRC council members. Singate and Topper were led in, destined to experience a taste of their own medicine. I struggled to convey the mix of emotions coursing through me upon confirming that Singate and Topper had been detained on charges of conspiring to overthrow the AFPRC government. The full details of their arrest and detention reached us that evening. Francis informed us that a press release from the State House, broadcasted over the Radio Gambia, accused the DOE of rejecting the National Consultative Board's recommendations for 2-year transitional timetable. The other guards were already abuzz with the same information, so I didn't need to bribe Francis this time for insight. According to the narrative, Chairman Jani and Defense Minister Samate clashed with Singate and Topper, triggering the rage of the unpredictable figures and leading them to attempt an audacious coup to seize power. The account, however, couldn't be further from the truth. Singata had been spiraling out of control, prompting Jane and Samate to take actions before his recklessness jeopardized their efforts. Singate had gained notoriety for recklessly firing at both public and private vehicles that dared defy his speeding convoy. He had even aimed at a well-known medical doctor's vehicle responding to an emergency call. Just a day prior to his arrest, he had threatened to shoot Captain Bartes Samate, Edmund Samate's brother, for tailing his motorcade too closely to evade traffic. Through what I later learned about Vice Chairman Singate's erratic and dangerous behavior preceding his arrest and detention, it became apparent that he had descended into mental turmoil shortly after participating in the failed counter coup of November 1994. His involvement in the massacre of the apprehended soldiers, including the killing of his assistant, Lieutenant Jibu Saib, and Lieutenant Sekuba Bari, whom he had always called his Koto, brother, elder brother in the Mandinka language, left Singate struggling with clinical post-traumatic stress disorder. In contrast, Jane and Samate, the more level-headed of the four leaders, had no option but to curtail Singate's self-destructive behavior before he undermined their nascent endeavors. And given Topper's constant association with Singate, they deemed it prudent to detain both of them on the fabricated charges of attempting a counter coup. The junta's inclination to manipulate the truth had over time become a defining characteristic. However, despite our agony at the hands of the two imbeciles, that day had led us to question the cogency of the government's allegations against their former colleagues. As the saying goes, what goes around comes around. 2 months ago, when they summarily executed defenseless army officers in the Kombosilo forest, Singate and Topper shamelessly fabricated a story of the men being killed in a gunfight. Lieutenant Jibu Sain's father openly and strongly denied the story in all independent newspapers, asserting that his son was killed in a gunfire or in a gunfight. On the night of the so-called firefight, he revealed his son, Lieutenant Jibu Sain, was at home and did not report to work until 8 a.m. the following day. Topper was quoted as having threatened Sain's father for disputing their statement, warning the old man not to speak about the death of his son in the papers, or else he would face regrettable consequences next time. The two executioners of his son were finally experiencing the consequences of their shameless fabrications. That was, however, just the beginning of their detention nightmares. In the ensuing weeks, state guard torturers will converge on the prison every Sunday morning, subjecting the former council members to unimaginable brutalities. They arrived around breakfast time, necessitating the locking of all detainees in our cells. Singate and Topper will then be tortured for hours, their screams piercing the air until their cries for help could no more be heard. The prison guards, aware of our shared sentiments regarding the fate of these fallen bullies, would describe in detail how the two were physically tortured in an unfinished building under construction right behind our confinement building. The former council members were clubbed with rubber hammers and truncheons, subjected to electrocution, and pummeled with punches and kicks all over their bodies. They were stripped naked and beaten mercilessly on their bare backs, legs, stomachs, faces, and necks. In Singate's shrill voice, he begged for mercy, crying out to his mother in the Mandinka language, Woina, Woina, Woina. The echoing screams were nauseating. During those 2 harrowing hours, between 10 a.m. and noon, the entire atmosphere resonated with prolonged screams and desperate pleas for mercy from the two men. The extent of the trauma they endured was almost impossible to comprehend. Singate and Topa may have been the devils many saw them as, but subjecting them to such excruciating punishment was beyond humane consideration. It was difficult to fathom that Gambian soldiers could follow such illegal orders from their superiors and carry them out without remorse. Thus, we were relieved when their ordeal came to an end after the second week. Singate soon showed signs of recovery, but Topper, who had been diagnosed with hypertension before the coup, began to develop serious complications from the disease. Doctors were prohibited from entering the jail, and sick inmates were not permitted to be transferred to any medical facility outside the prison, thanks to his own orders when he served as the Minister of the Interior, responsible for all prisoners in the country. Captain Edmond Samate took over the role of Vice Chairman of the AFPRC government, succeeding Captain Kending Singate. This transition marked a special moment in the government's structure. In a parallel development, Captain Keba Topper's position was assumed by Captain Kara Baja, who had served as the Commissioner of Brikama in the Western Division of the Gambia. Notably, Captain Baja had formerly held the position of Commander of the Presidential Guards during the tenure of deposed President Sarr Dembo Jawla. Similar to the former IGP Fasila Jagana, Captain Baja had left the country aboard the American vessel alongside former President Jawla. However, in stark contrast to Fasila Jagana's fate, who was arrested and detained on arrival, Baja assumed the role of Commissioner for the Western Division, avoiding arrest and detention. His association with Chairman Jani during their service in Sir Dembo Jawla's Presidential Guard unit was well known, a testament to their close friendship. Honorable Babukar Banjatane, who had been serving as the Minister of Finance and had escaped to Senegal on the 12th of November to avoid arrest, yielded his position to a promising young Gambian economist called Ousseynou Kama Cisse. Regrettably, Ousseynou Cisse would meet a tragic fate, falling victim of members of the AFPRC government in June 1995, a mere month following my release from prison. This distressing incident would be elaborated upon in a subsequent chapter, casting a somber shadow over the unfolding events. In another significant development, the esteemed Fatima Tamba who was closely associated with Captain Kending Singate and held the role of Minister of Women's Affairs, was dismissed. Her successor, Satu Job Seidi, assumed the position, eventually achieving the remarkable distinction of becoming the first vice president of the Jare government. Her tenure as vice president was spanned the entire 2 decades of President Jane's rule, from inception to conclusion in 2017. Satu Job said this enduring presence will leave an indelible mark on the government's trajectory. Captain Ibrahim, a key figure within the Gambia Marine Unit, returned from an incomplete senior officers training course in the United States of America. Subsequent to the coup, he assumed the mantle of spokesman and council member of the AFPRC, succeeding Lieutenant Alaji Kinte. However, his journey would later take an unexpected turn as he chose to seek political asylum in the United States of America in 1995. During his time in the United States, Captain Jao would unveil a treasure trove of crucial insights into the workings of the military government, disseminating valuable information through the international media. That ends chapter 14, folks. Till next time, you all have a nice day.